sure that I see.
That's good enough. Awesome.
Hello, everyone. There are some early birds that are joining us, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Already I see Cayman Council represented, Southern Region, Nurmic represented. I'm not sure if I'm seeing West as yet. Okay, Jerry. I've seen your message. Good morning, Miss Elaine. Just a minute, June. Yes, June. Please unmute. Do go ahead. You have a question? Or was that raised hand a mistake? Okay, may have been a mistake. Welcome, welcome to those who are joining. Folks, a very good morning to you, brothers and sisters. I it is certainly my pleasure to welcome you to another of our United Church learning opportunities titled Built to Bend. These opportunities are designed to help build our resilience in faith and responsiveness to the challenges presented by COVID 19, which include the need for physical distancing. I'm Karen Francis, project manager for these learning opportunities, and a very warm welcome to everyone. So, what of worshiping virtually? I think it is one of those things that people either love or hate, but are seldom ambivalent about. They may love it for its accessibility without the bother of travel, getting dressed up, rushing for breakfast, dealing with the unpleasant people you would prefer not to rub shoulders with. It's opportunity for creativity and flexibility, or some hate it because they lose that sense of the presence of God and the feel of community. Is there such a thing as authentic worship online? Is it really worship or like watching a television show? Reverend Anthony Chung, minister of the Ridgemont Church in the United Church, in a paper titled Emerging Stronger and Better After COVID 19, fashioning new expression of the local church, refers to the digital church as an expression of church which increases the ability to reach a vast audience, improve impact, while continuing the functions of church through worship, evangelism, discipleship, mission, outreach, advocacy, and fellowship. William Temple, an English Anglican priest, said to worship is to quicken the conscience by the holiness of God, to feed the mind with the truth of God, to purge the imagination by the beauty of God, to open the heart to the love of God, to devote the will to the purpose of God. Surely this can take place anywhere, even in cyberspace. The love hate relationship with worship online will not be resolved here this morning, and that is not our mission. However, the United Church does believe that its potential to expand the mission of God and spread the knowledge of Christ, thereby facilitating evangelism and discipleship, is great. And that is why we have these learning opportunities. Today, we're focusing on live streaming services. Our resource person is Craig Dillion Diedrich, an ordained minister in the United Church. He currently serves the Torrington Mount Carmel Charge. Craig has been involved with information technology at various levels. His IT background involves repairs, networking, mobile application development, web application development, programming, and database creation and manipulation, among others. His love for the subject has led him to pursue further studies so that the church may benefit from this investment. Craig loves young people and desires to see them grow into their purpose, taking on the leadership of the church in the years to come. Craig is married to one wife. He was very clear about that, Sade, and they have shared 7 years of marital bliss. Craig, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sister Karen, and good morning to us all. I'm seeing 24 attendees. It is good to see you. Well, I can't really see you, but it's good to see your names and know that you are present with us this morning. This morning, we want to look specifically at live streaming for congregations. So let me lay on the ground rules. So we will be utilizing the chat. So if I pose a question to you, feel free to respond in the chat. If you would like to share or ask a question, you can use the raise hand feature. And it should be to the lower right-hand corner of your screen. If you are using a laptop or a computer, if you're using a mobile device, you may need to go to participants, look for your name, and the raise hand should be there. So without further ado, we will dive right into it. But of course, we must go to God in prayer. Let us pray. Gracious God and Abba Father, we pause even now and we recognize that you are God. We recognize, Lord, that there is none at all who is like you because you are simply God all by yourself. Lord, we recognize that in creating us as human beings, you have given us a mind, you have given us intellect, and you have caused us by your grace and in your infinite wisdom to develop various pieces of technology. Lord, we thank you that in those designs, it has allowed your church to grow leaps and bounds similar to as it was in the time of the apostles. Lord, we pray that even as we share together, that you will open our minds and you will open our thoughts and you will cause us to be receptive to the information that will be shared. So God, we pray that for all those who are listening, whether here on Zoom or even on YouTube, we pray, God, that you will be with us, that you will speak to us, that you will challenge us to accomplish the Great Commission, which may not be physically going out, but going out through electronic medium. So Lord, speak now as we seek to hear from you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, friends, there's a video that I would like to share with us. You will see the title of it. It is not your usual hymn, but I ask us just to listen to the words and just know that this song was probably created about 4 or 5 years ago, and it speaks to the very thing that we'll be engaged in this morning. So I invite us to listen. If you are not hearing, I will invite you just to raise your hand so that I will know to make a few adjustments.
Congregation, hashtag Jesus Christ, say me love you. LOL caption, no one about you. Angels, emojis, 2 and stars, and you know what's up, church style. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. From you have a phone, you have a congregation. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. I'm a weed that. A weed that go breed. This church have no ocean, no data seating. But when me tweet on Sunday evening, 90,000 me having a meeting. Me not talk about me favorite and retweeting. No, when me send out a WhatsApp blast, and the fans them take it, put it on a podcast. We no take no collection, my church no class. All bunty a tweet as a radical cross. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. From you have a phone, you have a congregation. What's up, church? I'm a weed that. up church and what we that? What's up church and what we that? What we that? We that but we that. We're here, me in a one conversation with a 7-day Baptist Presbyterian. Them a ask me denomination, yeah. And when me keep me congregation, me coulda see the disconnection. When me tell them me keep them in a me Samsung. Me a WhatsApp bishop no pastor alone. Me a the changing of them vocal tone. What make it worse than no one church alone? Me have 10 more branches in a me iPhone. What's up church and what we that? What's up church and what we that? What's up church and what we that? From you have a phone, you have a congregation. Two banger when me text with. For all who not social media interested. Me Skype meeting requested. Me devotional blast them well respected. Hello, the church a grow. Have a congregation pan IMO. This you fi know. Rain or snow. We still a keep prayer meet pan tango. Hey, every Facebook missionary put up on no one. Big up the WhatsApp Pentecostal. Twitter Baptist don't stop tweet. Church I got Instagram post till everybody see. BB Adventist don't stop ping till the people them know what repent is. Hashtag breakaway church preach. Love tuggy out the road that they reach. Hello, this is a Friday announcement. This song is to encourage my brothers and sisters in Christ to turn them social media into church. Me say it first. Don't chat.
All right, so I will not give us all of it, but we can feel free in our own time to view this particular video, and YouTube is full of this type of content. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go straight into the presentation for this morning. All right, so this morning we will be focusing on live streaming for congregations. And of course, as you heard before, my name is Craig DeLeon Diedrich. I am currently the Minister of the Torrington and the Mount Carmel Charge of United Churches. And for me, it really is a joy to be here sharing with you, because I recognize that there are many churches who are behind the curve, but many churches in Jamaica who are behind the curve as it relates to this type and sort of engagement. So let's jump straight into it. So there will be some things that we'll be looking at this morning. We want to look at the objectives of this particular session. We want to examine live streaming in a general sense. We want to also examine the technology and the pieces of equipment that we need for live streaming. We also want to look at the potential legal issues when it comes on to live streaming. And I will be attempting to do a live demonstration of a video stream. And finally, we want to look at, where it comes down to brass tacks. How much money we need and how much money are we willing to spend? So we will examine the cost options. So the objectives for today, there are three objectives in particular that we want to have. So we want to be able to identify and explain the key tasks for undertaking live stream worship services. And please note that when we talk about worship services, we're not just speaking about Sunday morning, but we're also speaking about some other things which we will go into. We want to demonstrate how and which technological tools aid the production of services for live streaming. And finally, we want to provide information on the cost options for live streaming. So let's go. So live streaming, I'm going to rely on the chat for this one. So I'm going to ask us, just quickly, when you hear the word live streaming, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? So I'm going to ask us just to respond in the chat. So the question again, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear about live streaming? And please note that in this case, no answer is a wrong answer, because it is what you understand live streaming to be. All right, so I'm seeing June, Sister June, she's saying live and direct. All right, that sounds like TVJ. All right. Any others? Just give you a couple seconds to put in the chat, going viral, and that is Sister Cynthia going viral. And indeed, we have been seeing a lot of viral videos recently. Wow, they are coming in really quickly. So it is, another person says, using the internet to broadcast a live event. That sounds good. Presenting on social media, good stuff. Okay, that the activity is happening right now in real time. All right. Okay, so you can continue posting your things in the chat. We will look at them as we go through the presentation. So
Craig,
what is live?
we have
There's
one raised hand. I don't know,
okay.
is that a challenge with hearing or listening, or with hearing, or is it a question? AC, could you please unmute? Or was that a mistake? All right. Okay, it
Right.
appears to
Okay.
be a mistake. Please do go ahead.
All right, no problem. So what is live streaming? So according to one definition, and I want us to note some things, it tells us that live streaming is a type of streaming in which audio or really is audio and video is broadcast live over the internet. And you will recognize that there are three words that are in red and they are bold, and that is audio, video, and live. And so those three things form parts of the components of live streaming. For live streaming, there is need for, well, for the context in which we're using it, there is need for audio, which means you need to be able to hear. There is video, which means you need to be able to see. And is broadcast live over the internet, meaning it is really as it is happening. But what I will share with us is that live stream is not completely live. You may have, and so let me give you an example. For in the event of using YouTube, there's actually a delay, and the delay is either between 3 seconds and 40 seconds. So whenever something is happening live, there is always a delay. And there is a delay because the information that is being retrieved needs to be packaged in a particular way. It needs to be sent across the internet, and it needs to come to you, and your computer needs to unpack all of that and show you what is happening. So all of that takes time. So even though as we're having this conversation, there is actually a delay between what I am actually saying and what you are hearing. But the delay is negligible, so that's not a bad thing. So that is what live streaming is. So here's a question. Here's another question to you. Should we live stream? Should live streaming be something that we do? Let me hear your responses in the chat. I'm going to try and make this as interactive as possible. So I'm seeing one person saying yes, another person saying yes. Anybody saying no? Is there anybody who thinks that we should not live stream? All right, I'm seeing quite a bit of yeses. One person says that depends on context, on purpose. All right, so we may unpack that next week. Another person saying definitely. Someone is saying yes, we should live stream, especially in this time. All right, yes, in this time of COVID-19. Excellent responses, excellent. So here is my particular answer. Should we live stream? Yes, we should live stream. So since we have gotten to a place where we say, yeah, man, we probably should live stream. There's another question. Yes, but why? Why should we live stream? Why should we live stream? I'm going to invite us again to post your answers in the chat, even as I go through what I have here. So why should we live stream? Now, one thing we must recognize is that as a church, as a people of God, we have been called to a particular mission. And here's that. We have something we want to share with others. So that is one reason why we should live stream, because there is something that we have that others may not have, and is something that we must share with others. And I'm seeing so that the word of God can reach those who we can't meet with, well, physically, to reach those who may not be able to reach otherwise. Excellent responses, excellent responses. I like these responses because it allows us to evangelize, and that comes from Sister Livingston Smith. All right. Another thing that live streaming does, or why we should live stream, is that it gives the potential for a larger audience. For those who may have been doing live streams, what you may realize is that those who are on the live stream may be greater than those who are sitting in the actual benches. So it gives us the potential for a much larger audience outside of the four walls of the church. Dabisha says our audiences are now mostly remote and we need to reach them. It is also a new opportunity to reach those we didn't before. Excellent response. Another is that we can either connect or reconnect with our members who may be sick, shut in, or even overseas. I remember when we just started live streaming, and I would send out the link prior to the beginning of church on Sunday morning. And I was called by a member, and I was told that, you know, the members who are overseas are enjoying the service, and, you know, it is something that they would want to see. So we recognize that it allows us to connect and even reconnect with members who may be sick, those who may be shut in, and even those who are overseas. Another person says it allows us to promote the word of God, or the word of the Lord, globally. Very true. Another thing that it does is that it facilitates the creation of a ministry catalog. What do I mean when I say a ministry catalog? It allows you to keep a catalog of the services that you've had, of the sermons that have been shared, of the various ministries that the church offers. So if there is a dance ministry who dances, let's say, every fourth Sunday or every second Sunday, it allows you to be able to view those at a later date. So it facilitates the creation of a ministry catalog. So let's look at the intricacies of live streaming. Just please note, if you do have a question, just feel free to ask, so that, because I really don't want to lose anybody. I want all of us to be here together on the same page as best as is possible. All right. So in order to conduct a live stream, you know, effectively, I want to suggest that there are three things that are absolutely necessary. If you don't have these things, you're going to have some problems. It's not that you can't live stream, but I want us to note the word effectively. So what are these three things? The first is the team and the equipment. You must have some persons who are able to get the thing going. And of course, you must have the equipment, or you're going to live stream without the equipment, right? Secondly, there must be an audience. There must be someone that we are putting this thing to. And with the audience, there must be content. There must be something that you have to share with others. So it is not just live stream for live stream's sake. Oh, you know, I get up this morning, I feel like I want to post something. Let's live stream. No, there must be team and equipment. There must be an audience, and there must be content. So let's look at the team. So persons with a background in sound engineering, videography, so nice and really up there, and of course basic computer knowledge. And these three things are assets. So it's like on a job application where they say to you, you know, if you have this, it would be an asset. So having persons with these three areas, those three things are assets. But watch this. Persons who are disciplined, dedicated, and eager to learn and function are excellent candidates for the team. And if we're really honest with ourselves, age is the least of your concern. As long as this person is physically able to carry out the tasks. One of the things that I have a concern with in churches is that when things of this nature come up, it automatically becomes a young people thing. The truth is, we are one church, and it shouldn't just be young people, but we have to understand that it is then all of us. So if the person is 56 and they're able to do this, why not? If the person is 10 years old and the person is able to do what is required, by all means. But even though the other three things were assets, my thing is persons must be disciplined, they must be dedicated and eager to learn, and they must be able to function. And so even if they don't have these backgrounds, they can be taught. Because when I just started, or when I just got into live streaming, the truth is, I never know one thing. But I took the time, I acquired some of the equipment, and I tried out some stuff, and I realized that it worked. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just connecting two things, pressing a couple buttons, and you're live. So recognize that age is not so much a factor, but as long as persons are dedicated and are willing to learn, then you'll be good. Let's look at the audience. Where does the audience, who is the audience? So I want to suggest that the audience may be broken down into two main categories. And who are these categories? There is the potential and there is the actual. The potential audience, of course, this would speak to the persons or the persons who you are catering for. So let me give you an example. If you are catering for children, there's particular content that you would create for children. But what we'll find is that there's also the actual, and the actual are the persons who are actually viewing the content. So even though you may create the content for one set of persons, you will recognize that it is not just those persons who see the content, but other persons as well. So there is the potential and there is the actual. And the potential and or actual, they may either be local or international. Local could be seen in a number of ways. Local could be seen as your congregation or charge, or local could be understood as your country. International could be considered to be outside of your local congregation or the external. And it could also mean those who are in the US, those who are in Canada, those who are in Mumbai, those who are all across the globe. So just some things for us to consider. So now the content. Now the content is that which is pushed to viewers. It is determined and shaped by the audience and for the audience. So let's go back to the previous example when we spoke about children. So when we're creating content for children, the first thing that comes to our mind is that, it must be child friendly. In some cases, it must be colorful. It must be a number of things. And so because the content is being created, or because of this audience, the content is created for that audience. So the audience determines what your content is going to be. The content, so there are types of content, and I want to share these with us. So there's Bible studies. How many of us, although I'll probably get myself in trouble for this, but let me ask nonetheless. You can indicate by raising your hands. Let me see those who would normally go to Bible study pre-COVID. All right, 3 hands, 4 hands, 5, 6 hands, 7, 8. Oh, look like somebody pull on them hand and put it up back quick. But I'm seeing a whole heap of people who never go Bible study pre-COVID. I won't trouble that one right now. All right, let me see. All right, so everybody put on your hands now. So we had a maximum of 6 participants. Now here's the other side of the question. How many of us have been going to Bible study? All right, so let me rephrase that. For those congregations that have been streaming, and they have been streaming Bible studies, let me see a show of hands of those who attend those Bible studies. Five hands. All right, that's not so far. 6. That's really not bad. 7. Are we going to reach 8? No, I guess we won't reach 8. All right, so I did this exercise because I want us to understand that content is not just Sunday morning, but the content encompasses it encompasses the life of the church. So Bible studies, that is one way. What's another way? Another way would be workshops, something similar to what we're doing now. So let's say there's a particular mission that the church is about to embark. And they say, we need to do a workshop on evangelism. Then you would create that content and we'd probably have it over Zoom. So workshops would be another type of content. Another thing would be prayer meetings. Who knew that you could do prayer meetings over Zoom? And if I'm honest with you, I have been a part of a Zoom prayer meeting. And that Zoom prayer meeting, the numbers in that prayer meeting make Bible study look like it not try. But so we recognize that persons, attend prayer meetings on Zoom. And of course, there are worship services. There are worship services.
Reverend Craig, there are some persons who are wanting to make sure to clear their name. They're indicating that Bible studies in their churches take place via WhatsApp. And there are others who don't stream the Bible studies. They are pre-recorded and then posted on YouTube every Wednesday. By the way, folks, we are live on YouTube right now.
Bless the Lord. I am glad that it is being streamed, albeit not live streaming. So big up to those congregations and those workers who ensure that Bible studies are done. Big up on yourself. All right, so the air has been cleared, I hope. So let me just say that it is not limited to these 4 pieces of content or types of content, but there are so many other things that could be done. These are just examples of some. All right, so now we get to, for some people, the fun part, or probably even the part that hurts your head. So we want to look at the technology/equipment. I see somebody here saying Zoom Bible studies, excellent stuff. So we're going to look at the technology/equipment for live streaming. So there are 4 main components to produce a live stream. The first thing is that you must have audio. You must have sound. People need to hear what is being said. The other component is video, because persons want to see, they need graphics, they need some pretty stuff. And there is a software interface, which is what takes the audio and the video, put it together, package it nicely, and sends it. And the 4th component is an internet connection. Friends, you cannot stream if there is no internet. If you live beside a river, well, that's a whole different story. But you cannot live stream if you do not have an internet connection. All right, so 4 things. Audio, the video, the software interface / computer, and the internet connection. So let's look at each of these. So the audio, let me ask us really quick. In live streaming, when you hear about audio, and based on the little snippets that I would have given, what for you is the audio? All right, I'm seeing a question here. Let me attempt to address this question. What is the advantage? All right, so you have to help me out here. It says, what is the advantage of live streams? I'm assuming that the stream was just an extra one. What's the advantage to live stream from Skype or Zoom? All right, so that's actually something I'm going to get into later on in the presentation. So when we get to that point, we can deal with this question particularly. So if I get to that point and you don't hear me addressing it, feel free to put the question back in the chat. All right. So let's jump back to audio. When you hear about audio, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What do you see in your mind's eye when you hear about audio? Sound. All right. Break down sound for me now. By the way, you can see sound. All right. I'm seeing Flo Brown has their hand up. Is it that you want to ask a question, or is it something else?
Flo, do you have a question, or was that a mistake? Sometimes our hands touch that raise hand feature. It doesn't appear to be a question that is, yes, I'll lower the hand. Please go ahead, Reverend Craig.
Okay. All right. So I heard persons saying sound. Let me jump back in the chat. All right. Mixing board. All right. Sound, vocals, music, speech, speaker. One person makes something that I want to make mention of. It is clear and audible. That is very important. It don't make sense that you're listening to something and you're hearing feedback, you're hearing duplication, you're hearing this whole heap of bass, you're hearing this whole heap of this whole heap of tapping and your head start hurting and you say, "Chum, I can't bother." So being clear and audible is crucial. Another person said sound transmitted or recorded. Excellent. Those are really good answers. So let's jump right into it. So audio for streaming, it encompasses all the audio equipment in whether it is a sanctuary or the building. All the audio equipment. And what I will share is not the total list. So of course the microphone, you have to have the microphone because that is how you will share in song or in speech. That's how you will share vocally. There are also the instruments. And the reason that there's an S on instruments is that there are some congregations who have mic'd their drums. There are some congregations that have guitars. Congregations have keyboards or several keyboards or a host of other instruments. There's also the mixing board / the PA system. And the PA system is that all-in-one box that you would probably carry to a crusade. The mixing board is a little bit more technical. It needs a number of other components to work well. And of course, there are others. So the audio. So the mixing board or your PA system, it usually has what is called an audio output, which means that is some stuff that allows the audio to go out, right? So it leaves from the PA system and it goes into something else. So this should be familiar with many of us. So it's what's called the 1/8 or the 3.5 millimeter jack. I think I should have one here. So it would look like this. Pretty much the same thing like the headphone jack. That's what that looks like. Then of course there's the quarter jack, and the quarter jack is the big brother of the 1/8. And the quarter looks something like this. Pretty simple. There's also the XLR. Do I have XLR? I think I do. So there's also XLR, which is what usually is plugged into your microphone. So those are the three main outputs that are on mixing boards and PA systems. Now there are others, but those are more specialist equipment. So I am showing some pictures. So again, so aside from what I would have shown you a while ago, these are some pictures as to what these three things look like. Are we able to identify any of them? Are these connections strange to us? Just drop in the chat. Yes or no, if these things are strange to you. All right, so Reverend Kong says no. Dabisha says no. And I'm sure that there are a number of no's to come. The chat at this point is full of no's. Excellent. So this is something that's not strange to you. So you know what this means? I'm going to show you what this means. Because this is not strange to you, it means that anybody who has said no in the chat could very well be on that team. Because it really is not hard. So anybody who has put no in the chat is a potential audio-visual team member. So see, you just set up on yourself. You just set up on yourself. We'll continue with audio. So audio for streaming. Oh, I feel like this is duplicated. Yes, that's because it was. So we're going on now to video. And the video, of course, as we know, is that thing. When somebody put no in caps, all right, that person must definitely go on a team. So when we think of video, some persons might think of your camera, your phone. You know, your phone with the camera on it. So the video component, it consists of video camera or cameras, or there are some who use camcorders. They're really similar. There's minimal difference between the two, but the applications may be a little bit different. There's also the tripod, and the tripod is that thing that you put the camera on for it to be stable. And of course, you must have a way of connecting your camera to something to get that video feed, and we use cables to do that. And in some specialized cases, you will need what are called capture cards or video capture cards. And what this does is that it takes the video and converts it to a format that a computer is able to recognize and process and to output on the screen a video feed. All right. So cameras with a video or camcorder, you need a tripod, you need the cables. There are some cameras that are able to connect wirelessly. However, there will be some issues with that depending on your internet configuration. And there are also capture cards.
What about camera phones, Rev?
So camera phones.
The camera on the phone.
So the camera on the phone, it can be used. There are some phones that are actually able to be used as webcams via a cable. If you do it wirelessly, in some cases you will have a lag. So what you may find in some cases is that the video is gone ahead, or rather the audio is gone ahead of the video. So you'll find that the video and the audio are out of sync. There are ways to correct that, but video cameras in the entire setup as a single component is probably not the best thing. You could actually just use your phone to do really all of what we're saying. But there are some limitations and some drawbacks to that. And those are some of the things that we will look on later on in the presentation. So those are the components for video. I never said this one, but that's okay. So there are a number of interfaces to connect the camera to the computer. And when we say interface, we're really talking about the end of the cable. All of us are familiar with USB. Or if we're not familiar with USB, I would be very concerned. But there are also different iterations of USB. There is the USB Mini. For those of us who were in the era of Razr phones, Motorola Razr, and Motorola Sliver and the L7 and those kinds of devices, you would be familiar with the Mini USB port, because that is what we'd use to charge those devices. I think I have one, but I may have a picture of it. So if you remember back in your Razr days or back in your Pebble days, then you will know what that end looks like. And there's also the micro. Many of us should be accustomed to the micro because the micro is now, well, let me not say no, but that is what came after the mini. So the micro is what many of us would use to charge our phones now, or even what we would use to plug into our computers to transfer data between our device and the computer. So if you can look at that end, that would be a micro USB end. There's also HDMI, and there's HDMI mini and HDMI micro. I may have a picture. I may have one of those. I was trying to find an appropriate picture, but it really wasn't working out for me. All right, so what I have in my possession, I believe this is the HDMI mini. So this is what it looks like. So this is the regular HDMI. This is what it looks like. So for those who have smart TVs, this is and if you have the cable box, most likely this is what you would use to connect between your cable box and your TV. It may not be a smart TV, but this is what is being used. Or if you have a desktop at home, if you don't have the blue port, this is what you may have. And so this end is the mini HDMI port. The micro is much smaller than this, and depending on the camera that you would use, it would use that particular interface. If I am losing you, please let me know because I don't want you to be lost. All right, so that's the HDMI. Then there's a specialized cable, and this is more or less what they use in television production. It's called an SDI cable. And the picture that you're seeing now is what the end of the SDI cable looks like. So that's the mini, the USB micro, and the USB mini. So does any of these remind you of your phone charger? If it does, you're in a good place. If none of these things are strange to you, or a few of these things are strange to you, guess what that means? It means that you can serve on the AV team. Mm. So you recognize that it's really not as hard as it sounds. It's really not as hard as what people have said. But let's continue. Let's continue. So all of these interfaces, you have to plug them in somewhere. So from the camera, it have to plug in somewhere. And so one, it could be plugged directly into the computer, which is what I will demonstrate to us a little later. And there are also those that are plugged in through other devices. Now, if you want to get to production level, with those big cameras that you see the cameramen have on them shoulder, well, in the movies, if you want to get to that level, there are some other devices that we could look at. But of course, that costs a little bit more than what we're talking about now. So make us stay a little bit further away from that, and let's just get into it a little bit first, and then we all can expand as we want. So the software is a fun part because that's where everything comes together and gives you what you want. Are there any bakers in here? Anybody in here bake? Or anybody can make a good cornmeal porridge? Why, Ashley, your hand go quickie? So understand that the software is now when you pull all those. So think of the software as the bowl that you mix everything in, your flour, your sugar, your vanilla, your this, your that, and the other. And all right, so you love baking. All right, so just show me. So think of the software as the bowl, and the audio comes in, and the video comes in, and all of it is mixed to give you the particular product that you're looking for. All right. So the software is what pulls everything together, and it creates a seamless production. Now, the computer, whether it is a laptop or a desktop, that is what facilitates the the inputs of the video. So coming out of the mixer or the camera is the output. And what comes into the computer or what the computer receives is the input. So it is basically the same side or two different sides of the same coin. Cool? So the computer, it takes all that, it facilitates all of that. So with that understanding, I want us to recognize that there are several, when I say several, I actually mean more than 7. So there are several software packages that we can use to get our desired output. And I'll share a few of them with us. I won't give you the full list because we really couldn't do the full list. Let me just take a quick check somewhere. Okay, we're good. All right, so let's go into it now. So there's one that is called OBS, or Open Broadcaster Software. Now, this particular software is free. It is just free. If you go on the website, you will not see various packages. It will simply prompt you to download. Now, for this particular software package, it is free because it is open source, meaning other persons contributed to its development, and because of that, they're not going to charge you and so on. But it is a software that I have used. And personally, it is not my preferred software package. This requires a little bit more work than some of the others. When we go into things like the stream key and the codec and things like that, and those words may be lost on you, but that's okay, don't worry about it. So the stream key is really the address that needs to go into the software to tell it where to go. It's just an address, basically. So for OBS, it requires a whole lot more. It requires some intimate knowledge of how the streaming setup is done. But there are some steps that you can follow to make it really simple. And remember, it's free. You don't pay to use this any at all. And of course, there are many, many, many videos on YouTube that will give us, instructional videos, things that break down the software so that you can understand the various bits and pieces, how things link to each other. So OBS it's not bad. It's just not for me, but it may be for you. Another one is called vMix. vMix has a number of package levels. It starts off being free, and it can go up to as much as 1,200 US. And you can multiply it by 148 to see how much it would actually cost you. So vMix is free. It's pretty intuitive. It allows you to pull a number of cameras, or rather a number of video sources, or a number of audio sources. So let me give you an example. Let's say in church, you have 3 cameras. You have one that is pointing on the pulpit. You have one that is pointing on the lectern. And you have one that points outward to the congregation. What OBS does it as well. So what it allows you to do is to pull in all 3 of those video sources, and you can switch between one camera and the other. So if it's time for the sermon and you're pointing on the congregation, it allows you to switch and now focus on the camera pointing on the pulpit for the person who is preaching. And depending on what the flow is like, you can fade it out and carry it back to look at the congregation to see how they're responding to a particular thing. It also allows you to pull in things from another screen, like your Easy Worship, for those who use Easy Worship. So it allows you to pull in video sources from a number of places, and you can mix it and tweak it and twist it for whatever appeals to you and your audience. So far we have done OBS, which is completely free. We have looked at vMix, which has a free version, but there are a number of steps, of course, and that goes up to as much as 1200 US. There's also Wirecast, and there are two versions. There's a Wirecast Play. Well, there are other versions. There's a Wirecast Play and a Wirecast Go. The Wirecast Play is a free version. But of course, once you're free, just remember that there are limitations, right? The Wirecast Go is used for mobile devices. So you can actually use your phone to stream video. There is another application. I'll tell you what the names of those are in a minute. But there are other applications, mobile applications that you can use. So if you really can't afford the camera, you can use your phone and stream directly to whether it is Facebook or YouTube or wherever. So we've looked at Wirecast, and Wirecast does what the others do. Wirecast is my preferred go-to for software, but of course, people, it kind of pricey. There's no. So apart from the Play, there's really no free version. You're either going to pay 599 US or you're going to pay 799 US. And when I go through these, I'm going to walk us through how to evaluate each of these pieces of software. There's also one that's called StreamYard, which is really fun to use. But I would not suggest using StreamYard for streaming your worship services. StreamYard was developed primarily for discussions. So let's say there's somebody in Germany and there is someone, it's really created for like a panel discussion sort of setup. So you have one person in Mobay, we have somebody in Cayman, we have somebody in Germany, we have somebody somewhere else, and we pull the feeds from those places onto one platform, and then we can live stream to whether it is Facebook or wherever it is really. So that's what, so StreamYard is really not for your regular worship service. There is a free version, and it goes up to another level of paid. So it is a monthly thing. So you pay $39 each month for the service. So this one is subscription based.
And Elaine, I think, is saying that for StreamYard, you need a director or a switcher. Is that right?
Yeah, man, because that would essentially be the job of the host. The host is a person who would normally do that. But if I'm not mistaken, though, I think you may be able to assign privileges. So similar to how with Zoom you have a host and co-host, I think there may be something similar for StreamYard. But please don't quote me on that, because it's not something that I have used often enough. I probably used it once or twice just to get a feel of it, and it's really decent. And it's actually good for webinars as well, especially when you have presenters. It's one of the awesome things about StreamYard, why it is good for webinars, is that it integrates with a number of social media platforms. So it will simulcast to, and when I say simulcast, it means broadcasting to other places simultaneously. So let's say we're streaming on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. StreamYard allows you to pull comments from these various platforms into the conversation. So can you imagine you are doing a presentation or with some other persons, and you are on these various platforms and persons are commenting. The person who is quote unquote hosting can pull the comments from the various platforms into the conversation, and it will actually pop up on your screen. So you see the person's name, and you'll also see the comment, and the panelists can respond to that if they so desire. So
is that what the radio stations like nationwide would have, because they are referring to their audiences on YouTube and WhatsApp and all of that? almost at the same time.
It is
Is that
possible, but it
kind
is
of
possible.
technology?
It may be because art. So I'll make a confession. So I'm an avid nationwide listener, and if I am whether at home or the office, I watch the live stream. And what I realize sometimes is that they refer to their phone, but also know that you can also have WhatsApp on your laptop. So it could be a case where it is just the one screen with the various platforms on it, and they'll be picking up from that. Um, I don't think that they'll be using StreamYard because of some of the things that I see that would not be consistent with StreamYard. But StreamYard for that sort of purpose is an excellent platform. But as it relates to live streaming your worship services, it may not be the best. It would be good for like a Bible study thing, but for the others, it may not be the best. For Zoom, this very platform that we're using, oh my, what did I just do? Okay. This very platform that we're using, it allows us also to live stream. But please note that the live stream is only available for the paid versions. We cannot live stream with a free version where the free version is acting as a host. It is not allowed in Zoom. You have to have a subscription. I wanted to do a live demonstration of the Zoom live stream, but it is proving to be difficult to do it while I'm in this Zoom meeting. But just recognize that Zoom, it is possible for you to use Zoom. Now, here's something that I did in my early days of live streaming. I use Wirecast to do my streaming. And what it allows me to do, it has this neat little option what that it calls a virtual webcam. So what is on the broadcast screen, I can actually route that into Zoom. So whatever pretty nice stuff I'm doing on Wirecast, it would come over onto Zoom, and you would see all of that going. And that's something that I will show us when we get into that live demonstration. But Zoom allows us to stream right now to YouTube and Facebook. It doesn't allow for, so there's a question, can Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube be linked simultaneously? Unfortunately, it can't. So straightforward, it doesn't allow for that sort of thing. It is either you're streaming to YouTube or you're streaming to Facebook. There are ways around that. There are other platforms that you can use that will act as simulcasts. So one is called Restream.io, but of course that is a subscription-based thing. I wasn't planning on going into that, but since the question is asked, as it is now, it is not possible. Zoom has not allowed for that to be done. So if you're streaming to one platform, you can really, do you need a paid? Oh yes, actually, you need a paid version. You need a paid version of Zoom to stream to either YouTube or Facebook. You must have a paid version as the host. So, okay. So straight off the bat, you are unable to do it simultaneously, but there are other tools that you can use to do that. That may, it will affect the quality, but it will be negligible. So it's not something that you would need to worry about. Cool? So that's it for that. No, these are not all the software packages. There are others. So, but these are just the ones that I have found to be useful, and ones that I have tested myself. Well, except for vMix. vMix is the only one I haven't tested. That is correct, Reverend Khan. It is either YouTube or Facebook at a time.
May I just point out that that's what we're doing right now. We're on Zoom webinar and we are streaming live on YouTube.
Yeah, so essentially, so straight from Zoom, it is going to YouTube. There are no middle people. There are no go-between applications, or if there are, it is on the back end or behind the software. So that's exactly what's happening right now. All right, so these are just some that I have tested apart from vMix. And these are ones that I know that people use regularly enough. There are others like XSplit. There's Adobe has one, but of course, when you talk about Adobe, just know that it means money. So Adobe equals money. Also, Adobe equals quality. Just putting that out there. Oops, okay. So one of the questions that I get very often, all right, here's a question. How can I view this workshop on YouTube? For you to view this on YouTube, we would need to provide you with the link. But as it is now, if you go on UCJCI, that would be the channel that it's being shown on, you should be able to see it there. So if you go into YouTube and type in UCJCI, you will see all of what is being done. But again, what you will see is that there is a delay. And as I said before, the delay can be between 3 seconds and 40 seconds, depending on the internal setup of YouTube. So right now, you can actually go on YouTube and see us in the conversation. All right, so a lot of the questions that I have gotten speak to what kind of computer do I need? What kind of laptop do I need? And I will preface this by saying that the type of computer / laptop that you will need is dependent on the type of setup that you are envisioning. If you are looking to go production, you want to have 3 cameras over here and 3 cameras over here, and you want what they call a PTZ camera in the roof, which PTZ means pan, tilt, and zoom. So essentially, you can stay from one place and you can move the camera. So if you want all of that really nice stuff, a regular computer is not going to work. It's not going to work. It won't be able to manage the load that is being put on the system. But for a basic setup, which would be 1 video input, 1 or 2 audio inputs, this is what we are looking at. So it means that you would need a processor that is higher than 2 gigahertz. It is rated higher than 2 gigahertz. And it must either be at least, so i5 is Intel and R5 is AMD. So the 2 main processor manufacturers are Intel and AMD. So i5, persons would have heard about things like i5 and i3 and i7, stuff like that. So let me just find out though. Any of those I's sound strange to you? Any sound strange to you? All right, let me try and share. Oh, there's someone in the chat. Okay, no. All right. So for those who the I story may be lost on you, let me see if I can show you something really quickly. All right. So the laptop that I am using, and you may have to look, I'm not even sure if it's going to show you. Yeah, it's a Core i5 and some other stuff. So recognize that the type of machine that you're using will need to be at least an i5 processor or an R5, R meaning Ryzen, I think it's RYZEN, and this needs to be greater than 2.0 gigahertz. If it is lower, you're going to run into problems, all right? You will need at least 8 gigabytes of memory. That's your RAM, random access memory. You will also need at least, well, this is sort of not necessarily so, but 500 gigabytes of storage is fine. Now, I know that there are some persons who get mixed up when they hear 8 gigabytes of RAM and 500 gigabytes. And I know that there are some persons who get, oh, you have an i7, you don't feel like you want to lend me it. So there are those who become confused when they hear 8 gigabytes and then they hear 500 gigabytes again, and they're like, what is this? So once it says RAM, once it says RAM, that determines, coupled with your processor, how fast your computer is. And when you hear 500 gigabytes, and you may either see HDD or SSD. That speaks to the amount of data that your machine can store. So like your files, your music, your videos, your Word documents, your publisher files, your PowerPoint, that is what is stored wherever it says SSD or HDD. And you will also need at least 2 USB 3.0 ports. Now, if you look for newer laptops, if you look on your laptop where the USB port is, some of them might look blue, but there are others that might look gray. For those that are blue, those are definitely 3.0 ports. And 3.0 just means that it processes data or transfers data from one side to the other side faster than the regular one. So what that allows is that for, like if you're using a camera and you're pulling data from that camera, it allows you to pull that data faster so that, all right, have you ever been on YouTube and you're watching the video and the video nice and then you see it stop and you see the thing spin around and it start and it stop and you see the thing spin around again, that whole buffering thing. It's the same thing in principle. Because this can pull it faster, it gives you more of a seamless movement across the video. Cool? So, a part of how we started was saying that if you don't have internet, you cannot live stream. If you don't have internet, you cannot live stream. So, for the internet, we are talking about Digicel or Flow. Now, I know that in some areas, there is neither Digicel nor Flow. Your internet service provider may have a weird name that is neither of these two, but it is recommended Digicel or Flow. Now, I will not give my preference between these two because I do not want to get myself in any trouble. Now, of course, your service is dependent on your location. In some areas, Digicel will not go. In some areas, Flow will not go. And what you'll find, of course, in some areas, neither Digicel nor Flow will go. And so you'll have to depend on another service provider. And interestingly enough, oftentimes, those service providers may receive from other service providers. I am seeing a hand raised. Mr. Wedderburn, is that a question that you want to ask?
No, it's not. It seems to have been a mistake.
Oh, his hand down.
Oh, it's Latoya has a hand up.
Oh,
Latoya, do you wish to speak?
Hi, yes, I do. As it relates to the internet, I know you said you won't give your preference, but what speed do you suggest?
Okay, I'll be coming to that probably. It may be the following point, or it may be 2 points down. But don't worry, I am definitely coming to it. Because I know that internet speeds are a sore point, and my God, are they a sore point?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man, I completely agree with you on that one. All right, so I'm coming to it though, so don't worry.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, so of course,
there's a comment that sometimes you have to get a modem to supplement this stream. Perhaps you're gonna address that.
A modem to supplement the stream. I think I know what they may want to say, but I would love to hear. June, I'd love you to sort of break that down so that I am sure that I understand what you are saying. So if you want to share If you want to say something, you can just raise your hand and
You can
we'll,
unmute and speak if you want, June. June, are you going to speak to us? Okay, perhaps not. Please go ahead.
all right, no problem, no problem. All right, so, okay, so it says sometimes the source is unreliable, so getting a modem to hotspot it. All right, so here's how, all right, so let me just finish with this part, and I want to address this one specifically. Somebody, I don't think the person reminded me, there was something else I was supposed to address, but the person didn't remind me. I think
I'll look for it and bring it back to you.
Sure. All right, so back to this. So of course, service is dependent on location. So here are the speeds. And so the speeds must be greater than 10 megabits per second. It must be greater than this. So on YouTube, depending on what settings you're using, 6 megabits can work, but it decreases the quality of your video. Most providers, I know that Digicel has a base rate of 50 megabits per second. I know that Flow has several residential rates that I think will go as high as, I think, 120 or 180 megabits per second. If those are true speeds, then you should not necessarily have an issue in terms of your bandwidth. But let me say this: what they say you will get, you will never get. If they say if they say they're giving you 50, you're probably getting as close as 45. If they say you're getting 180, you'd probably get somewhere between 160 and 170, because what they're showing you is as high as it will go. So I'm seeing here, increased bandwidth is required to enhance internet connectivity. I'm not sure if it's so much connectivity, but I get what you're saying. So yeah, man. So if there's more that you want to think about it like a pipe. So NWC, when them laying pipe, that's probably a problem. So when NWC is bringing the water to your community, they carry it to you at a particular pipe size. And then from that coming into your house, there is a smaller pipe. And so if it is that your demand for water is high, it means that you'll need a bigger pipe. Residential is different from commercial. Churches viewed as commercial in bandwidth. That is true to an extent, June, but it really depends on where you are. Because I know for some churches, they are using residential rates, residential bandwidth. So that is true in some places. All right, so back to the pipe analogy. If you are using a particular amount of water and you need to increase your consumption, then you will need a bigger pipe, and that bigger pipe will allow more water to come through. It's the same thing when it comes on to bandwidth. Bandwidth is the size of your pipe, which means that there's a maximum amount of flow that can pass through at any one time. There's a thing that's called throughput, and your throughput is what you are actually getting. And your throughput theoretically should not be more than, it cannot be more than your bandwidth. So essentially, if you want faster speeds, you need to increase your bandwidth. So if your bandwidth is 50 and you need more than 50, you need to increase it to be able to get that amount. All right?
I have found the question, Reverend Craig. Please let me know when you're ready for it. Well, I've put it in the chat to you.
Okay, sure. So let me continue here. No, I know that many persons love using Wi-Fi. We love using Wi-Fi because it allows us the freedom of movement. So you're on a WhatsApp call and you're moving from one room to another. You're using a laptop. You need to go do something. You can grab up your laptop and you can move to where you're going. Now here, what you see is Ethernet over Wi-Fi. Now, both have their pluses and their minuses. for transmission of faster signal. This, and I'm thinking that this is in regards to the Ethernet over Wi-Fi. So when we talk about Ethernet, we're talking about the cable. I think the providers will give you either a blue, yellow, or a gray cable. And it will look like a really big phone line. That's your Ethernet cable. Unfortunately, I don't have any this. I don't have any close to me, or I'd show it to you. But you can always Google Ethernet or RJ45, and you will see what it looks like. So when it comes on to live streaming or streaming of any sort, Ethernet is preferred over Wi-Fi. Ethernet will give you greater consistency in speeds and in connectivity. So imagine you are on YouTube and you're watching a video and you're on Wi-Fi, but then you realize that you're having some buffering issues. That's because Wi-Fi can be unstable, which means it will drop the signal intermittently, or it is just not fast enough, or what we use is not fast enough. Ethernet, on the other hand, is basically just plugging straight into the internet. So all of that speed you are able to utilize. And so because you don't have to pass through walls, because one cable, you don't have issues with signal. With Wi-Fi, the further you are from the router or your wireless access point, is the weaker your signal becomes. And after about, after about 25 feet, going through a couple of concrete wall, yeah, that pretty much does it for your signal. And you are not able to stream on something that is that weak. So this is why Ethernet is preferred over Wi-Fi. So wherever you're going to set up your thing, whether you want to create an AV room with all the equipment in there, or there's a particular area in the church that you're going to be working from, it is best to run an Ethernet cable from your router directly to that point so that you will be able to plug in. Oh, thanks for the question. All right, I should have answered it before going into this. So when I'm finished with this, I'll deal with the 2 questions. So wherever you're placing your laptop to work, it is best to run a cable directly to that point so that you can maximize on your connection and on your speed. Was there another one? No, there wasn't another one. All right. So let me deal with these 2 questions. One question is the advantage of streaming versus Zoom or Skype, and the issue about the router or the modem. All right. So there's streaming and there's live streaming. Streaming is just is a movement of video and audio data across a network or even across the internet, and it doesn't have to be live. That's correct. Ethernet is faster and more stable, without a doubt. Live streaming is sending across the quote unquote live thing as it is happening. So there's just a subtle difference between the 2. No, streaming versus Zoom, I'm going to assume that you mean live stream versus or Skype. Essentially, they are, it's not so much an either or. The softwares that I would have suggested minus Zoom, it allows you to manipulate the feed before it goes out. If you're using Zoom or Skype, it really is what you see is what goes out. So it doesn't allow the flexibility of changing how the video looks, cropping the video, expanding the video, doing all of those things through the software platform or through the software. But in the others, you can do a whole heap of things before the feed goes out. So for example, if you want to use the computer or the software to change how the lighting is of the video, if you want the video to be darker or brighter, if you want to increase the volume of the audio because it's probably low, or if there's too much bass, you want to take out some. Zoom and or Skype does not allow you that level of flexibility.
Mm.
They can still work, but they just don't allow you to do much. You can take the video feed, you can take the audio feed and send it out. There's not much manipulation that you can do. And when you're doing production, you want to have as much freedom as possible to manipulate your inputs before sending it out. And so these two platforms, though they are useful and though they can get the job done, it doesn't allow you that level of flexibility. So that would be the advantage of using a software to do the live streaming versus just using Zoom or Skype. The other question as it relates to the modem. All right, so essentially what a modem does is that it transfers one type of signal to another type of signal. A lot of us call it, what we call it? Yeah, some persons refer to it as the Wi-Fi box or what have you. Um, but it is not so much that you. Oh, let me go back to you just to be sure. Sometimes the source is unreliable, so getting a modem to hotspot it. All right, so the internet is broadcast across on various types of media. So for some, it is hardwired to a particular place. So they run the cable and quote unquote drop the cable at a particular place, plug it into your modem, which then accepts that signal, twists it and turns it into something that your computer can use. In terms of getting a modem to hotspot it, no, that's a different sort of transmission medium. And so that is done through waves, through radio waves essentially. So sometimes one will go down because there might be an issue along the cable or where the cable is coming from. So the internet will drop out. But it is really good if you are able, if you can afford it, to have what we call redundancy. So if this one drop out, it automatically switches over to the other one. So I know for some companies, some major companies, they have internet with Flow and the Digicel, and they really use it for that redundancy or load balancing. So if they're doing something, so for example, let's say a company that does, live streaming or streaming of any sort, and that's their core business, they really can't afford to not have internet. So when one comes in and if it drop out, they can easily switch to the other one, and you will not necessarily see that the switch was made. So it's really just redundancy. So if this one drop out, you can fall back on this one. So that's really what it is. So everything is a modem, whether it is the one that come into your house or the one you plug into your computer. They're all modems. It's just that they receive data differently. So one might be through the wire that comes into the house. The other one could be through radio waves. So that's the real difference. But if it is that you are big on streaming, that your congregation is going to be big on streaming, then it would be awesome if you can afford it to have internet coming from two different providers, so that if one go down, you can fall back on the other one. But again, remember, these things not cheap. They cost. Them cost a little bit. But that's really if you're going grand scale and them kind of stuff there. The simple stuff, you're good. There's not much that you need to worry about. All right, what time is it? It is
It
now
is time for a break, folks. We have a health break. I encourage you, we're going to stop for 5 minutes, and we're encouraging you to stand, move around a bit, maybe have a glass of water, whatever it is, but we will resume at 11:35. Okay? Okay, folks, I'm hoping you were obedient and that you didn't actually just sit there, but you took the opportunity to move around a little bit in this age of zooming all over the place. We're doing something very unhealthy. We're sitting for long periods of time, but we need to change that. So we return to our webinar and we continue. I'm seeing a comment. Joyce is asking if it's possible to have all that you said sent to us. The YouTube, you are able to access again through YouTube, the actual webinar. And Reverend Craig, I will share the presentation that Reverend Craig is doing right now. There are two other questions, Reverend Craig. You want to take them? Or two comments in chat?
All right, so I want to thank David for reminding me about the upload speeds versus the download speeds. Now, usually your upload speed is normally 10% of your download. I have seen cases where it has been up to about 25% of your download. What internet providers will show you is your download speed. So you can download data at a maximum of whatever rate they are giving you. And just for you to be able to just have an idea, your download speed is anywhere between 10 to 20% of whatever figure they are showing you. And sometimes they will show you capital MB, common PS, or they will show you common Mbps. They actually mean two different things. But I don't want to go too much into that because it might be a little bit. So thanks for that reminder, David. I'm seeing something here from from Reverend Kong, my apologies. When neither flow nor digital is available in the area, the next provider is the local ones. How efficient and effective will those be? Unfortunately, I cannot say. It is, yeah, it really depends. One, where it is that they are getting their connection from, what is their data rate. So there are a couple of things involved in that. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. I can't say yes or no. I can't give you a binary response. You'd have to just examine it based on what you see. Yeah. But that we can have a discussion after about that. Okay. All right. So pressing on or sailing on. All right. So we've looked at the internet. And just to recap, that the service that you receive is really dependent on where you are. Whether you are, depending on the parish that you're in, depending if it is rural, urban, suburban, it depends on if the terrain is hilly or if it's a plain. Those things play into the type of service that is offered in that area. All right, so we're talking about live streaming, but where are you going to stream to? Just going to stream up in the air, or is it that you're going to be anchoring that somewhere? Use a portable modem by other providers. All right, so here's the thing with this type of modem. While it can be used, it's not ideal for this type of thing. It can be used to do your regular, your browsing, probably a couple downloads and such. But it may not, and of course it's dependent on a number of other factors. It may not be able to manage what it is that you want it to do. But if I remember this later, I'll suggest some ways to utilize the portable modems for this kind of thing. All right, so everybody knows about YouTube and about streaming to YouTube. That is something that in most places that's a given. There are those who also stream to Facebook, and what I will say for mobile devices stream well to Facebook. And it is probably one of the easiest ways to stream using your mobile phone. without any other applications or whatever, just using the Facebook platform and streaming from there. I know that there are some congregations that use this platform to stream, and especially those who are using a mobile phone. To stream to YouTube from a mobile device, here's what YouTube says. YouTube says that for you to stream from your device straight to YouTube, you would have to have at least 1,000 subscribers. Okay, my laptop is doing some weird things. Okay, so for you to stream to YouTube, you would need to have at least 1,000 subscribers. Now, there is an application that I have found, and this is on Android or iOS. It is called Prism Live Studio. Once you have a YouTube account, once you have a Gmail address, you by virtue of having that have a YouTube account, it allows you to stream from your mobile device straight to YouTube through this application. So you just put in the information in the application, what it asked you for, and you press live, and you are literally live. So that's one workaround, using a mobile device to stream to YouTube.
Is that spelling
yes.
correct? Okay.
Prism Live Studio.
It's in the chat, folks.
Prism Live Studio. So that's one workaround. I think there are a couple more. I've just not tried them. All right. Facebook, as we said, is what many persons use to stream to without having the software and the whole setup. So that can be used. There's a platform that's called Livestream. It is, I think it's livestream.com or livestream.org. I think it's more .com. So they have their own all-in-one platform. So you're able to stream using their platform, and you're also able to view the content from their platform. I think it is also subscription-based. There's also Instagram. You can live stream to Instagram, but what I will say to you is that it's really tricky to stream to Instagram. Earlier, I spoke about a stream key, and the stream key really tells you the address that the video is going to be sent to. Whereas with other platforms, they will give you the stream key to put in the software to know where it goes. Instagram does not do that readily. So there are some workarounds, but it is still possible to stream on Instagram. And of course, you're able to stream on Twitter. I think Twitter's platform for this is called Periscope. So you're able to stream from that platform. It is not widely used, but it's still a possibility. So as it stands now, the first three, YouTube, Facebook, Livestream, are the ones that allow you to stream readily. Livestream, I believe, is a paid service, and I think it is a subscription service. But by far, YouTube and Facebook are two of the more popular ones that churches or congregations use. There are others, but they're not often used in Jamaica. Overseas, they use them quite a bit. So those are some of the options as to where we can stream to.
And you're saying that those who use a phone camera to as the camera for the live streaming can easily use Facebook to live stream the service.
Easily use Facebook to live stream, definitely. And we have seen quite a number of successes. There are a couple of congregations that come to mind readily that use Facebook for their live stream.
Portmore does, I know.
There's Portmore that comes to mind. There's Low River that comes to mind. There's also Duke Street.
Port Maria United as well.
Quite a bit of persons. I'm seeing Dwight Berry's hand up. Apologies, Reverend Kong. Mount Olivet also uses Facebook. Yes, I remember seeing it a couple of times. For the ministers,
Bryce as well.
Yes, and I believe Bryce also has a YouTube channel. For the ministers that are on the webinar now, please note that YouTube is a good resource for you, not just to watch content, but also to produce content for yourself. I remember Henika speaking last week about creating content. YouTube is also a good way for ministers to create content, so you can create your own catalog, your own ministry catalog. So that's one thing that can be done, just as a side or on the side. All right. So one thing that we must look at are the potential legal issues to live streaming. While we can have the technologies in place and we can have the teams in place and we can have all of those things in place, there are some things that we must bear in mind and how they can potentially impact us as a church. So there is the whole matter of copyright infringement. And I know that many of us who have been live streaming via YouTube, especially in the COVID times, many of us have violated this and probably not even sure that we did. To Mr. Copeland, yes, yeah, man. I touched on that a little bit earlier. vMix, I believe, allows you to do that. So vMix, Wirecast, OBS, StreamYard, yes, those do allow you to stream to several platforms at the same time. And but what I do know is that depending on the version or the what you have paid for, there is a limitation. So some will allow you only to stream to 5 places. Some will allow you only to stream to 2 places. So it really is dependent on the package that you have paid for. And I'm also being told that Lincoln Kirk live streams as well. Excellent stuff. So copyright infringement, let's talk about that a little bit. Now, one of the mistakes that we make, and I'm going to share a story with us. One mistake that we often do, and I guess we do it without even knowing it, is how we borrow content from YouTube. So let me give you an example. Bryce was mentioned. So you are planning your worship service and you found this nice song on YouTube and, the song have a vibe. And you say, yeah, man, I could have played this right before the prayer, because it will bring us into that space. And so probably without even understanding, you pull that song from YouTube, or you even stream it from YouTube into your worship service. And everybody's nice and the spirit do what the spirit needs to do. And when the service is finished, you have your video. But a couple of days later, you go back to your YouTube studio or you check on Facebook and you recognize that a part of your video is blocked. It is blocked because you do not have the right to restream that content. And that's something that is an algorithm that is built in to many of the streaming services. I know Facebook does it, and I know for sure that YouTube does it. Exactly, Reverend Conley. And it has happened to me too many times. So we need to understand that. So as much as we plan the service and we bring in all these songs from YouTube and we pull in these videos and we even play stuff in the background. Once it goes on YouTube or Facebook, their algorithms go to work and they match the audio and or video content in it to things that are already in their database. And depending on depending on how many times you do that, they will either block a part of the video, block the video entirely, or block your channel entirely.
So does that mean one should not pull material from YouTube into the worship service?
It is not advised. If you do, while this will not be a fix-all, you can put in your description, or depending on how you do your stream, you can put on the screen that you acknowledge that you don't own the copyright. It will go some distance, but not very far. I mean, I have had an entire video blocked because I used content from YouTube. And it's not just content from YouTube, but what you'll find for those who watch Jamaican YouTubers regularly, they will say, when they're on the road interviewing, if they're passing somebody who has their car radio loud and the video will pick it up, they'll either cut that out of the video or ask the person to turn it down, because YouTube can potentially have a strike against them. And once you get to a certain amount of strikes, your video can either be demonetized, which means that you can't run ads, you can't make the money off it, or they will just blacklist your channel and just get rid of it altogether. So that copyright speaks the music, it speaks the videos, and also speaks the images. Another thing that I know, but I was actually trying to find the black and white for it. I would have made mention of this in another space, and this is as it relates to people, especially children. Now, you may think that, as a church, this shouldn't apply to us, but once you are publicizing someone's image, legally it requires from them, or you are required to have their permission to do so. If not, if this permission is not expressed, and of course when they come on to court, I don't know the whole legal stuff because I am by no means or even close to a lawyer, but they can take you to court for this sort of thing. So for our congregations, while our members may be okay with it, we recognize that we also have visitors. So one thing that I would suggest to us, and it's up to you if you want to take it on, is that you should let your congregation know that their images will potentially be shown on the stream. There are some disclaimers that can be given, but I would suggest that you talk to a legal mind in that regard, because what we don't want is that one day we're in church and the police pull up and the police goes for the person in the pulpit, put the handcuffs on him or her, and walk them straight down the aisle through the door. That would be a major embarrassment on the church, and not just on the church, but on the person as well. So there are numbers. So those things we need to look at. So if there are legal minds in your congregation, you can ask them, how this whole thing works. But I know that there have been cases, probably not in Jamaica, where persons' images were shown. Something like that, some kind of plagiarism, something like that. In principle, something like that, the plagiarism. So it is best, it is wise to seek permission or to give a disclaimer, have it probably printed on the order of service. When visitors come to our congregations, to let them know that they will possibly be caught on camera, and if it is that they are okay with it. There's a question: do any of the broadcast providers provide copyright clearance, meaning that subscription to save image covers? Unfortunately, David, I am not in a position to answer that. I can look it up and probably answer at a later date, but as it stands now, I don't have that information.
Folks, what I'm proposing is that we will do some research with some legal luminaries to find out what kind of language, what sentence might be helpful for you to print on an order of service, so that that information is known to the congregation, and for those who are not printing, for it to be placed on the screen.
Just to answer your question, June, it would be both the participants and the attendees who could potentially be caught on camera. Any person who will be potentially or actually shown on camera, from my understanding, and of course I could be wrong because this is not my area of that. The legal stuff is really not my area. But I've seen cases, probably not in Jamaica, where these things have been carried to court and they have won the suit. So it really is just for us to be careful, and especially when it comes on to our children. The law don't play when it comes on to children. It may also mean that the child care and protection policy may need to be reassessed with some of these realities in mind, just to find out how real are these issues for us in Jamaica, and if they are that real, that we make the adjustments as necessary to ensure that we're on the right side of the law so that we can continue fulfilling our mission as Christians. So those are my 2 cents on that. All right, so now we're going to go into the live demonstration. All right, so for this,
just before you do, I wonder if there are any other questions that persons want to pose right now, just before we get into the live demonstration. Any other questions on what has gone before? Okay, not seeing any coming up. Please do go ahead, Reverend Craig.
Okay. All right, so I am going to be switching my device, but I'll still be using this one for the audio.
While you're setting that up, we have a suggestion from Reverend Forrester of a resource that we can draw on to get that information about copyright. And we will follow up to provide the information as we provide the slides from this presentation. Thank you, Reverend Forrester.
All right, so just to ask us, are we able to see the image from this device? If you are seeing it, can I invite us just to raise our hands? All right, friends, so are we able to see? If you're able to see, okay, good, persons are seeing. All right, so what I'm about to show us is a very basic setup of what is needed for our live stream. On this side, all right, so this of course is the laptop that I'll be using for the demonstration, and I'll be using the Wirecast platform to do all of what needs to be done in terms of pulling the audio and the video into one. So I've separated the devices to show. So everything over here is for the audio. So here we have a mixer, which will substitute for your mixing board / PA system. Of course, you will have your microphone and the connection to plug into the mixer. This is also the power for the mixer. And this is the cable that will take the output from the mixer and put it into the computer. And I'll be using a USB sound card to allow me to be able to manipulate the output from the mixer. On this side, we have a camcorder, which is what we will use to capture the feed. Of course, this is what will mount it to the tripod. This is the cable that I'll be using. It is a mini USB to USB. And this essentially is what we call a pigtail or a USB extension. And this will allow me to extend the distance to which I can carry the camera. All right, so I'm just going to pause this video just to plug up everything, and I'll come back in probably about 2 or some minutes, about 2-3 minutes to show us the setup.
Folks, do remember that we are live on YouTube. If there is someone who you feel could benefit from this, do send them a WhatsApp quickly to tell them if they go on YouTube to the UCJCI channel, they would be able to tune in to the webinar.
All right, folks, so the ad hoc setup is done. The only thing I have left to do now is to plug the power into the mixer for all the pretty lights to come on and show us that we have audio. All right, so I'm going to walk us through what the setup looks like. So of course, there is your mixer. And currently we have one microphone plugged into the mixer. And of course, your setup at church would be something similar, but you would have several microphones and several other inputs going into the mixer. Coming out of the mixer, so for me, it would be main out. And my main out, oh boy, it would be 2 quarter cables. So these two, left and right. So this will run into the sound card I showed earlier. This sound card allows for input and output. So the microphone icon or microphone symbol you'll see there, this is your input, and the headphone would be your output. And so it is connected, so that's how it is connected to the laptop. Here we also have the camera, which is mounted on a tripod. It is connected via mini USB, which is this, runs into the computer via USB. Now for this particular camera, I need to tell it if it needs to act as a storage device or as a camera. And so I will simply scroll down to PC camera and click enter, and it is now sending the image to the laptop. And so all of this is happening here. All right, so I'm going to switch to my other device and share my screen to show you what the Wirecast setup looks like.
All right, while you're doing that, Ashley, I see that your hand is up. Is it a question about being able to see, or is it something that you can raise after the demonstration is finished? Well, did you deliberately raise your hand, or was that a mistake? You may go ahead and speak. Do unmute. Oh, it was a mistake. All right. No
okay,
problem.
So I'm coming to Wirecast, and now I need to share my screen so that you can see what it looks like. So I won't be using the computer audio because it might interfere with the setup. So share screen. All right, so the platform that I use, as I said earlier, is called Wirecast. And you can use vMix, you could use OBS, you could use a number of others, but my preference is Wirecast. So the first thing that I will do is to create an empty document. Essentially, what I'm saying to it is that it should rid itself of all other settings, and I'm starting fresh. I could also use any of these down here that I would have already used. I come on to continue. All right, so my share screen has stopped, probably because of the Wirecast, but let me see if I can bring it back. All right, so this is what I'll have to do. As this is giving me some problems with the share screen. This is not the most fun thing in the world right now. Okay, are you able to hear now?
Dacia, you're not hearing? Reverend Kong, can you unmute? You have a question? Okay, no.
Okay, so I'm able to share screen again. Excellent. All right, so this is what the opening of Wirecast looks like. This screen on my left is the preview window, and the screen on my right is the live video. So live is whatever is being pushed out to the internet. It allows for us to have 5 layers, and on these layers are where you'd place your video, your audio, your graphics, your moving pieces, all of that. So to engage the various devices, the video and the audio, I need to now introduce them to a layer. I have a particular way of working. So usually my video would go on my 3rd layer. So there are 5 layers. So think about 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rather. All right, so I would have clicked the plus sign, with this plus sign here. I would click it, and it would show me all the options that I have. I have the option of video capture, which means pulling in my video sources. There's also my audio capture, pulling in my audio sources. Media files would speak to your videos, your pictures, things like that. Audio files that you want to play. Network, if it is that you have another screen on the network, you could actually pull the information from that screen. Overlays would speak to your titles, you know, like on the news where the person's name and their title would come up. That is where it would go. So for now, we want to do video capture. So I have the option of using the camera that's on screen, or the option of using, oh my, what is this? Or the option of using the camera. Now I may have to restart my camera, and it should come up as demo 1, which would be the name of my camera.
Reverend Ron, you're saying that you're not hearing?
Persons aren't hearing?
I'm just checking. Some have said yes, but I've noted, okay, he is hearing. All right, that's fine.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll pull in my camera, and it will show, of course, myself. I could also pull in my audio. I usually have my audio on the first one. So we click on audio capture. So because I am using USB audio, I would click microphone for USB. And once I add that, it will pull in whatever audio is being captured on that device. So you could actually have several you could have several cameras being shown on this layer. You could have several audio captures on this layer. So if you pull in from one system, if you're also pulling from another system, you could have all of that integrated here. So when you have your desired shot, once you click live, it takes all of that and it pushes it out onto the internet. But how do we get to the internet? How do we get there? So here's how we get there. You would go to the top and you will see file, edit, switch, media, output, layout, replay ISO, and so on. We're looking specifically for the output. Once we click output, we go to our output settings, and then that will give us the list of places that we can send out to. All right, so we want to go to YouTube. Here is YouTube. We could do Twitch. We could do live stream, which is the livestream.com. We could go Facebook Live, any of these. But what it also allows us to do is that it allows us to use something that is not necessarily in the list. But I won't go into that because that's some technical stuff. So let's use YouTube. All right, so it says that it's not configured. And so this is where we can go and make some tweaks, make some adjustments, whether it is to the audio, the encoding, and so on. All right, so what I would normally use when I'm streaming to YouTube, I would normally use this setting, which is 1080p at 30 frames per second. And I'll be streaming at 6,000 kilobits per second, which is roughly 6 megabits per second. So that is how I'll be streaming. Now, for you to send it to the particular account or your YouTube account, you would need to authenticate.
All right, Reverend Craig, if I may just say something here.
Sure.
That for those who at this point might be feeling, oh my Lord, this is too technical, I can't manage this, I can't understand this. Please remember that this webinar is meant to introduce you to what it takes. When you have decided that you want to go the route of live streaming through the technology teams in the region, the training of the specific individuals to do the work would be done. So don't be too worried if you're not catching all of this. What Reverend Craig is trying to do is give you a sense of what happens. Okay, let me allay your fears a bit. Please do go ahead.
Thank you for that, Sister Karen, because I know for some persons this might feel a little bit overwhelming. So once I clicked authenticate, it would then open a window in my browser. But of course, for security reasons, I cannot show you my account information or the accounts that I manage. Suffice to say that there are some accounts that I use. All right, so you will need to allow Wirecast to manipulate your YouTube account, and don't worry, it is not going to steal any information. It's not going to go through your email. It's not going to do any of that. It is simply saying that you're allowing Wirecast to push the information to YouTube. That's all that it is. It's nothing sinister. I know that for some persons, that sort of thing can be a little scary. All right, so I'm getting an error because I have an issue on my end. All right. So this is part of the Wirecast side. Now there's another side that I'm going to show us, and this is on the browser side, which means that I may need to share some of my information with you. But I trust you all, and I trust all the persons who will be viewing it after this, that you will not do anything outside of the ordinary. All right, so let me go into my YouTube account. Don't worry, I'll show that to us momentarily. All right, good. So I'm in my dashboard, so I can now share my screen so you can know what it looks like. All right, so this is what my channel looks like. So to get that integration done properly, in the top right-hand corner, you will see create. You will click on create and you will go to go live. Now, if you have videos that you have already recorded, you can choose upload videos, put in the particular information, and then have it upload your video. So let me go and go live. So this then allows me to create streams a number of ways. One, I can use the webcam that is on my machine and the microphone to go straight to YouTube without using the software. But then of course, that will not allow us to do the manipulation that we would want to do. So you will see this blue in the upper right hand corner that says schedule stream. So that is what will allow you now to create your stream. All right, so I'm going to create a new one. All right, so this is where you would create this is where you put in the stream information. So you would put in the title of your video. So you could say so whatever the name of your church is, worship service, whatever date. So for me, it would be either Torrington or Mount Carmel anniversary service 2020, just as an example. If you want your video or your live stream to be viewed by everyone, you would need to ensure that it is on public. If it is on unlisted, it is only the persons that you send the link to who will be able to view the video. And if you put on private, it means that you will be the only person that is able to view that video. All right. So let's try something here. So let's call this UCJCI learning experience. Just an arbitrary name. And I want to make it public. I add a description, and you can put whatever you want in here. So I'll put this is a test, because that's what it is. Here you can decide whatever, so this would be pretty much what your content is. And generally it is on people and blogs. So this is the date that you would want the stream to be shown. So today is the 31st, so we put it the 31st. Here is when it is a time that you want to start your live stream. So let's say we want to start our live stream at 12:20. So 12:20 is there on this day. Now, YouTube allows you to do a live chat feature, but it doesn't allow the live chat feature when you select, yes, it's made for kids. Because of course, there are some child laws that they have that don't allow them to do that. So if you want to enable your chat function, your live chat function, you would have to click on no, it is made, yes, no, it is not made for kids or children. You could also upload a custom image, whether you want to use a picture of your church, probably the snippet of the person who will be featured on the stream, whatever it is. You can do that. So I need to move this out of the way. All right, and then once that is done, you click create stream. So it means now that your stream is ready to be shown. So let's go back to our Wirecast. Okay, are we seeing the Wirecast screen? Okay, wonderful. So we go back to our output. And so when we click here, upcoming, what do you notice? You will notice that the information of our stream is there. So it shows the name and the time. So once you click this, it will essentially tell you that that is where it is going to be pushing that information. I'll have to reset this because I didn't save it earlier. All right, so once you click OK, it will save that information. Now in the top, I guess, left-hand corner, you will see three icons. You will say stream with some zeros. You will say record with some zeros, and ISO record with some zeros. Our focus will be on stream. Now the thing is that once you click stream, it will automatically start your stream. So you don't have to go into YouTube and click anything. You do everything from here. So once you click stream and it is in green, it means that you are live. So let's test it out. Let's see if it's really going live. There might be an error on my side, but that's okay. So let me carry it to my screen. All right, I need to stop sharing. And I need to share this screen. So right now, I am actually streaming live on YouTube, right from where I am. You will not see anything in the box because I did not put it to show anything in the box. However, if I turn on my camera and I push this to live, shortly, in about probably 30 seconds, you should see my picture coming up to show that I am actually streaming online. And so that is all that is necessary or needed to do a live stream. So
That's all.
that's all. No, the first time you do it, I'll be honest with you, it's going to look like it's the longest process and the hardest thing you have ever done. If you want to end the stream, there is a button in the top right hand corner that says end stream. When you click it, you click end. It says not yet because of course there are sometimes you may accidentally press it when you don't mean to. So we end and that video is done. So there's something else I want to show. So remember when I spoke about copyright infringement? Let me tell you what has happened to me in the past. Let me go back to my studio page. Is this a question somewhere?
It's a commendation from Joyce. Well done.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Big up yourself. All right, so the copyright infringement, this is what happens. So because all the videos that I've done have been live. So I'm going to show you what happens when you do that. You will see some of them, well, all of them have a copyright claim on them. And that's because I would have used videos from YouTube while I was doing these services. So this one says that it's partially blocked, meaning that it has blocked out the content that is in breach. This one is completely blocked, which means that it cannot be shown. So there's a public, there's a partially blocked, and there is the blocked. So what this shows us is that we have to be careful of the content that we put up because it can either be seen as a copyright infringement. Also, as it relates to the other pieces of content that we put up, there are some things that YouTube does not allow. So things that are considered raunchy, things that will show children in a bad light, anything that breaches their policy. But because we're a church, we know that what we show is wholesome stuff. Those are not things that we would need to worry about. So that would be the demonstration of the live stream. Let me come back to the presentation. So friends, that was the demonstration. Before I go into the other part, are there any questions that you would want to ask at this point? Feel free to share them before we continue.
And we're on the home stretch. I'm not seeing any questions coming up. Yes, Elaine has a question. Her hand is up. Elaine, please unmute.
Hi, first, let me commend you on a wonderful presentation, Reverend Leon Dietrich. I found it very useful. The question is, about how many people do you think should be on a team to make a live broadcast successful?
Thank you. Did you pick that up, Reverend Craig? We lost him. Reverend Craig?
Okay, am I being heard now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I need to change my headset. It's been giving some problems. All right, as it relates to the team, it really is dependent on your AV outlay. Meaning, if you are having several cameras, because it would be good to have one person assigned to a camera. If you're having, let's say, just one camera, then you'd have one person. For a very small layout, I would say 4 persons. One person to manage the video, that's the video camera. The second person to manage the audio. So if things are getting too low, to turn it down. If it's too low, turn it up. And one person to manage the computer. The 4th person will be the person who pulls everything together, the person who does the directing, so to speak. So if it is that, they need to say to the camera person, all right, you need to pan in this direction, or if you need to zoom in on this, then that person would give those particular instructions.
And so what's panning?
Yes, panning. So if they need to turn the camera in a particular direction.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So 4 would be good for a basic team, a bare bones team. But as you increase that, the numbers would increase. So if you have 2 cameras, you'd need another camera person. If you have 3 cameras, it would be the same. And as you increase in cameras, that would happen. However, if it is that you are doing remote cameras, and when I say remote camera, it speaks to the being able to control a camera remotely. So for example, I made mention earlier of a PTZ camera, and PTZ again means pan, tilt, and zoom. So it could be a case where you have several cameras positioned in the sanctuary, and from one control, you are able to control what each camera is viewing. If you have a setup like that, then you won't need as many persons. You probably need one person for every 2 or 3 cameras. But essentially, one person to a camera, one person to do the audio, one person for the computer, and one person just to pull everything together, to kind of tie up everything. So that's how I'd respond to that one.
Okay. All right, please take us home.
Okay. All right. So, but before, any other questions though, friends? All right. So I guess this is the part that everybody wants to get to. You know, how much is it going to cost me? And this is, when will you use the voice interface? Could you say some more on that? When you say voice interface, what you're making reference to? You're making reference to the sound?
Would you like to speak, June? Oh, she said yes, in answer to your question.
Okay, so all of that would be done by the audio, because all of the microphones and the inputs from the various instruments would come into one central area, and that would be the mixing board. And out of the mixing board, there'd be one coming out into the computer. So the person who is controlling audio would control the voice. So if this microphone needs to be turned up versus this microphone needs to be turned down or even off. So that is how that interface would work. Question: one of my congregations, we have one person to control content, audio, and camera. We have placed the camera at a central place for ease of rotation. Reverend Forrester, is that a PTZ camera or is it a fixed camera? Oh, June, did that answer your question though? Just want to be sure. Okay, wonderful. So Rev, if you could just give a little bit more clarity on that. Is it a
camera?
Or it's fixed at a point in the ceiling? So is it a case where there's one person? So how would that person move the camera from left to right if it needs to be done? All right, so we look at the cost options. So for the purpose of counsel, I was asked, along with persons on a team, to put together some options that congregations could use to as it relates to purchasing the equipment that they would need to begin the live streaming. Now, let me give a disclaimer. This was done on the basis that every congregation would have already had a mixer or a PA system. So let me just give it that. And also, the costs that you will see do not include shipping, handling, taxes, or customs fees. And the prices were arrived at from an exchange rate of 150 to 1. And that was done in a sense just to be safe.
Anticipate.
Yeah, man, just anticipate the movement of a dollar. All right. Here's a question. I've been having a challenge with the drum set. I think it's really important to the overall musical experience, but we've been really struggling to hear it on the stream. Do I have any suggestions? One suggestion would be to mic the drum sets, or to mic the drum set, whether you want to use one or two microphones. Have that microphone or have those audio inputs come into the mixing board, and then take all of that audio from the mixer into whatever it is that you're using. So that would be the best way to do it. So mic your drums, ensure that all that runs into your mixer, and then have one output from your mixer into whatever you're using to do the streaming. That, I think, would be the best way to do it. No problem. All right, so the team and myself would have put together 4 options. One which would be the least expensive, and one which would be a little bit more expensive than the first. Just to verify, are you all able to see my shared screen? You should be seeing a spreadsheet. Okay.
Yes, some yeses are coming.
All right, wonderful. So this first option is based on, oh, let me see if I can switch my audio. All right, so let me come back to this one. All right, so this first option is based on congregations who at this point are only able to stream via a cell phone. And so what I have here, so the cell phone, I could not put a price because that is really based on what you have available. There's a tripod, and tripods are necessary to stabilize your video. If you hold it by your hand, I can assure you that your hands will become tired. When they become tired, then we shake all over the place. So when you think you're looking on something, the camera gone, clear gone, or somewhere else. So you'll need a tripod, and the tripod allows you to pan smoothly. So if you need to turn to the right, it doesn't look shaky. And if you need to turn to the left, it doesn't look shaky. It's really smooth. For the audio, there are two things that you would need. One is a cell phone microphone adapter, and that really is to help you to pull the audio into your phone. What you will see at 3.5 millimeter cable, that really is an extension. So if it is that you are pulling, if you are miking something that is far from the camera, you can use this cable to extend the reach of the microphone to be able to get into your phone or your device. The application that I have suggested, it is a free application, and as was said before, it's called Prism Live. And here are the links for it on the Google Play Store and the Apple Store. And again, there's a disclaimer that all of the information that I'm giving to you is for a setup with only one camera, only one. If you need more, you can simply multiply the video items by the amount of cameras that you need or the amount of cameras that you want. All right, so the second option now is similar to the one that I just showed you. So it uses a camera, a tripod, it uses the USB extension cable or the pigtail. It utilizes a USB sound card. That price that you see there is the actual Jamaican price in our store.
Could you go over a little to the right where so we can see the prices more clearly? I need to
make this a bit smaller. Okay. Is that better for us?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And again, if you need an extension on your sound cable, your audio cable, you know, that is dependent on the length. So it could be as short as 6 feet, and it could be as long as I probably wouldn't go beyond 20-25 feet, because then you'll have attenuation, which means that the signal is beginning to degrade. For the software, I've put OBS because it is free. It is a free software that could be used. In terms of the computer hardware, this is a mini PC. It is not a full PC. It's a mini PC. So think about it is smaller than an average food box. All right. If you know the burger box, it is just about the same size. And the specifications on this are able to manage the inputs that are needed to run this live stream. So you shouldn't have a problem.
And what kind of camera is that?
Oh, this camera is one similar to what I had before. I'm going to see if I can open this link and show us what it looks like. All right, so let me share the screen. So this is what that camera looks like. The prices may vary dependent on when you purchase it and such. But this is what the camera would look like, similar to the one that I showed you earlier, the one that I'm using. I remember, as I'm seeing, so I remember a question as it relates to megapixels. What I would say, the higher the better. But just recognize that the higher you go, the more work you're giving your computer. So anything above 12, 20 megapixels should be adequate. It may not give you that sharp image that you would want, but to get a sharper image, you recognize that there's a correlation in the price. The sharper the image, the sharper the price.
Okay.
All right. And of course, you again need a tripod to ensure that you have a stable platform on which to place your camera. What I will say to us, do not skimp on your tripod. Ensure that your tripod is one that is stable. You don't want a tripod that if little breeze blow, it going blow over and mash up your camera, because your camera is one of the most expensive pieces of equipment that you will be using. All right, so don't skimp on that. The rest of the things are pretty okay. Yeah, man. So as we discussed with these, for if it is that you want to be able to edit videos, you want to record and then you want to go ahead and edit, then these are some options for you. There are some free options. There are options for under 200 US, and there is an option if you want to spend more than 200 US. And this will be the same for the options, for the other two options going forward. All right. So our third option, the things are to some degree the same. So the audio and the computer hardware remain the same. You'll recognize that I have put in vMix, and I've said that the price is really dependent on the package that you want. The audio, as I said, was the same. The difference now is the camera. This particular camera is one that has an HDMI output. For those of us who have HDMI, who have laptops with HDMI ports, I want us to recognize that those HDMI ports that we have on our laptop, they are not input ports, which means you can't plug an HDMI device into it and expect to see it display on the laptop. The HDMI ports that we have on our machines, or specifically on the laptop, are really for output. So if you need to link to a secondary monitor, or if you need to link to a projector, that's what that port is there for. As a result of this, you will need what is called an HDMI capture card. And what this does is that it takes the output of the signal and it turns it into an input for the computer. So this HDMI capture card it basically converts from HDMI to USB to allow you to see what the camera is seeing.
Could you reduce this again so we can see the cost?
Apologies. Okay, that should be good.
Yes.
All right. So HDMI cables are tricky. They're tricky in that if they are too long, you will lose the signal. What I have found, there's a workaround for it. It's an Ethernet-based workaround. So on one side, you will have a receiver, and on the other side, you'll have a transmitter. And so that should be able to work. You can also read up on that. If it is that you need to use extension for USB, so for example, if you want to plug that USB into your computer, but your camera kind of far, you would use that USB extension cable. And of course, all the other things are as they are. And the video editing software remains the same. Mm. And so the final piece of equipment, what do you recognize from this? you recognize that the most expensive piece of equipment on this list is your camera. And this camera is not a baby camera. This camera, while it is not a television production camera, this camera, it allows you to create better videos, sharper videos, gives you better depth of color, things like that. What you will also recognize that the next most expensive thing on this is your computer. Because to manage images of this quality, you will need a computer that has sufficient processing power to be able to take the raw file, the video that is coming from this, and make it work. So that's what the camera looks like. And you know, if you feel like you want to spend a little bit more money, you know, you can get the upgrade, which is the X2000, which is this. What again, it really is what a congregation can afford. The tripod again is it has to be the type of tripod that protects the investment of your camera. I can't stress it enough. You can't buy a flimsy tripod and put an expensive camera on it. Because if you do that, just know that you may be either repairing your camera soon or you will be purchasing a new one. Again, because of the type of camera that this is, it has an HDMI output. So again, you'd need an HDMI capture card. Now, the capture cards can range in price from what you see here to up to about 500 US for the capture card. And of course, it's dependent on the brand and a whole host of things. But these are just some suggestions that myself and the team came up with. And for the purpose of this, I am sharing it with you. Well, on this medium, for me to send it out, though, I would need to receive permission from the Deputy General Secretary of my region, because it was under his auspices that the committee was formed to create this. So if I get the go ahead, then we could have this circulated. And just note that these are just suggestions. You don't have to buy exactly what is on this. You can tweak it to what it is that you think will work for you. So my friends, this is the end of this presentation. I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank you all for participating, and I pray and hope that you would have found this information useful, and that as congregations, you can extend and expand your ministry so that the work of God can continue to be done and be done to a level that God would be pleased with. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you kindly.
Reverend Craig, before you take your ease, may I ask if there are any questions that you want to raise at this point? I sort of feel that there are quite a number of questions, and that perhaps a lot of them are very context specific. Let me stress again that this is just an introduction, that through the technology teams in your region, so you need to get onto your region now to find out who is in charge of your technology team, to say to them, my church, Karen United, wants to get started on live stream, and we have 2 persons who need to be trained. How can you help us? So that's what we want to do. Reverend Craig has whet our appetite, given us some understanding of what is involved. And I'm seeing the expressions of thank you, Reverend Craig, for your interesting presentation, that it has been helpful. And I know that a number of persons will be beating a path to you even after they have received the PowerPoint. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, folks, may I just show you something. There is more. So we started out with navigating the digital space. We went to developing content for social media, today live streaming, and we conclude this series next week with producing services for live streaming. What will that be about? You'll get some tips on transitions, how you move from one point to another, what's appropriate content when you're going to be live streaming the services. How do you begin from the planning point of view, bearing in mind that the service will be live streamed? And how do you talk with persons who are going to participate in a service that will be live streamed? Our resource person will be Miss Marlene Thomas, who has joined us for this webinar today. And I encourage you, this one was a little longer because we wanted Reverend Craig to get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Or we go back to a 10 to 12 schedule, and that's next week, Saturday, between 10 and 12, and you will receive the regions will have the link for you to register for that live stream. Gentle folks, thank you so much. May the Lord continue to bless you as you serve him and seek new ways to serve. And I said at the beginning, we started off with 3 regions, and we have 4 regions that are on. And we're so very happy that we are able to have all regions of the United Church. So God bless you. Thank you. And you will see shortly in your inbox a small survey for you to give us some feedback on this event. Take care. Walk good.